Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And beautiful Kirtan Saraswati. It was full of love. So thank you so much for singing for the Lord. And yeah, we'll just start with the reading first, and then we can continue some discussions. I'll share my screen, and we need like let's say we have 38 verses, so like 4 readers. Um, Would anyone like to start reading like the first 10 verses? Okay. Nupur, yes, you can go ahead, please.
Paul. Sri Maitreya said, after hearing the words of Brahma, the creator, which were free from all sinful purposes and as sweet as nectar, the Lord heartily laughed and accepted his prayer with a glance laden with love. The Lord, who had appeared from the nostril of Brahma, sprang and aimed his mace at the chin of his enemy, the Hiraṇyākṣa demon, who was stalking fearlessly before him. Struck by the demon's mace, however, the Lord's mace slipped from his hand and looked splendid as it fell downwarding. This was miraculous, for the mace was blazing wonderfully. Even though the demon had an excellent opportunity to strike his unarmed foe without obstruction, he respected the law of single combat, thereby kindling the fury of the Supreme Lord. As the Lord's mace fell to the ground and a cry of alarm arose from the witnessing crowd of gods and rishis, the personality of Godhead acknowledged the demon's love of righteousness and therefore invoked his Sudarshan discus. As the discus began to revolve in the Lord's hands and the Lord contended at close quarters with the chief of his Vaikuntha attendants, who had been born as Hiranyaksh, a vile son of Diti, there issued from every direction strange expressions uttered by those who were witnessing from airplanes. They had no knowledge of the Lord's reality, and they cried, May victory attend you! Pray dispatch him! Play no more with him! When the demon saw the personality of Godhead, who had eyes just like lotus petals, standing in position before him, armed with his Sudarshana discus, his senses were overpowered by indignation. He began to hiss like a serpent, and he bit his lip in a great resentment. The demon, who had fearful tusks, stared at the personality of Godhead as though to burn him. Springing into the air, he aimed his mace at the Lord, exclaiming at the same time, You are slain, O saintly Vidura! While his enemy looked on, the Lord in his boar form, the enjoyer of all sacrificial offerings, playfully knocked down the mace with his left foot, even, even as it came upon him with the force of tempest. The Lord then said, Take up your weapon and try again. Eager as you are as eager as you are to conquer me. Challenged in these words, the demon aimed his mace at the Lord and once more loudly roared, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Actually, sorry, I think now let's just have 3 readers because if we don't find more, maybe you can read till 15. Sorry.
Nahi. Okay, okay. When the Lord saw the mace flying toward him, he stood firmly where he was and caught it with the same ease as Garuda, the king of birds, would seize a serpent. His valor thus frustrated, the great demon felt humiliated and was put out of countenance. He was reluctant to take back the mace when it was offered by the personality of Godhead. He now took a trident, which was as rapacious as a flaming fire, and hurled it against the Lord, the enjoyer of all sacrifices, even as one would use penance for a malevolent purpose against a holy Brahmana. Hurled by the mighty demon with all his strength, the flying trident shone brightly in the sky. The personality of Godhead, however, tore it to pieces with his disgust. Sudarshana, which had a sharp-edged rim, even as Indra cut off a wing of Garuda. The demon was enraged with the demon was enraged when his trident was cut to pieces by the discus of the personality of Godhead. He therefore advanced toward the Lord and, roaring aloud, struck his hard fist against the Lord's broad chest, which bore the mark of Shivatsa. Then he went out of sight. Sri Krishna.
Thank you so much, Nupur. Hare Krishna Bhagavan Prabhu, if you could read, please.
Yes. Hit in this manner by the demon, O Vidura, the Lord who had appeared as the first boar did not feel the least quaking in any part of his body, any more than an elephant would when struck with a wreath of flowers. The demon, however, employed many conjuring tricks against the personality of Godhead, who is the Lord of Yogamaya. At the sight of this, the people were filled with alarm and thought that the dissolution of the universe was near. Fierce winds began to blow from all directions, spreading darkness occasioned by dust and hailstorms. Stones came in volleys from every corner as if thrown by machine guns. The luminaries in outer space disappeared due to the skies being overcast with masses of clouds which were accompanied by lightning and thunder. The sky rained pus, hair, blood, stool, urine, and bones. O sinless Vidura, mountains discharged weapons of various kinds, and naked demonesses armed with tridents appeared with their hair hanging loose. Cruel and savage slogans were uttered by hosts of ruffian yakshas and rakshasas, who all either marched on foot or rode on horses, elephants, or chariots. The Lord, the personal enjoyer of all sacrifices, now discharged his beloved Sudarshana, which was capable of dispersing the magical forces displayed by the demon. At that very moment, a shudder suddenly ran through the heart of Diti, the mother of Hiraṇyākṣa. She recalled the words of her husband Kashyapa, and blood flowed from her breasts. When the demon saw his magic forces dispelled, he once again came into the presence of the personality of Godhead Keshava and, full of rage, tried to embrace him within his arms to crush him. But to his great amazement, he found the Lord standing outside the circle of his arms. The demon now began to strike the Lord with his hard fists, but Lord Adokshaja slapped him in the root of the ear, even as Indra, the lord of the Maruts, hit the demon Vritra. Though struck indifferently by the Lord, the conqueror of all, the demon's body began to wheel. His eyeballs bulged out of their sockets. His arms and legs broken, and the hair on his head scattered. He fell down dead, like a gigantic tree uprooted by the wind. Aja, Brahma, and others arrived on the spot to see the fearfully tusked demon lying on the ground, biting his lip. The glow of his face was yet unfaded, and Brahma admiringly said, "Oh, who could meet such blessed death?" Brahma continued, "He was struck by a forefoot of the Lord, whom yogis seeking freedom from their unreal material bodies meditate upon in seclusion in mystic trance. While gazing on his countenance, this crest jewel of Diti's sons had cast off his mortal coil. These two personal assistants of the Supreme Lord, having been cursed, have been destined to take birth in demoniac families. After few such births, they will return to their own positions. The demigods address the Lord, all obeisances unto you. You are the enjoyer of all sacrifices, and you have assumed the form of a boar in pure goodness for the purpose of maintaining the world. Fortunately for us, this demon, who was a torment to the worlds, has been slain by you, and we too, O Lord, are now at ease in devotion to your lotus feet. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna Manjari Gopi. If you could complete the chapter, please.
Yes. Sri Maitreya continued. After thus killing the most formidable demon Hiraṇyākṣa, the Supreme Lord Hari, the origin of the boar species, returned to his own abode, where there is always an uninterrupted festival. The Lord was praised by all the demigods, headed by Brahma. Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, I have explained to you the personality of Godhead's coming down as the first boar incarnation and killing in a great fight a demon of unprecedented prowess as if he were just a plaything. This has been narrated by me as I heard it from my predecessor, spiritual master. Sri Suta Goswami continued, My dear Brahmana Kshata, Vidura, the great devotee of the Lord, achieved transcendental bliss by hearing the narration of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the authoritative source of the sage Kausharava, Maitreya, and he was very pleased. What to speak of hearing the pastimes of the Lord, whose chest is marked with Shrivats? People may take transcendental pleasure even in hearing of the works and deeds of the devotees, whose fame is immortal. The personality of Godhead delivered the king of the elephants, who was attacked by an alligator and who meditated upon the lotus feet of the Lord. At that time, the female elephants who accompanied him were crying, and the Lord saved them from the impending danger. What grateful soul is there who would not render his loving service to such a great master as the personality of Godhead? The Lord can be easily pleased by spotless devotees who resort exclusively to him for protection, though the unrighteous man finds it difficult to propitiate him. O Brahmanas, anyone who hears, chants, or takes pleasure in the wonderful narration of the killing of Hiraṇyākṣa, demon by the Lord, who appeared as the first boar in order to deliver the world, is at once relieved of the results of sinful activities, even the killing of a Brahmana. This most sacred narrative confers extraordinary merit, wealth, fame, longevity, and all the objects of one's desire. On the field of battle, it promotes the strength of one's vital organs and organs of action. One who listens to it at the last moment of his life is transferred to the supreme abode of the Lord. Oh dear Shaunaka. Haribol.
Thank you, Hari Bol. Thank you, Manjari Gopi. Thank you, all the readers. So we'll begin. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाखया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपं कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च नमां विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So thank you everyone once again, and thank you to Gaurkuma Prabhu, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu, and all the senior devotees for this wonderful opportunity. We just delve right into it. I hope everyone can still see my screen. Oh, I just forgot how to start the slideshow.
वो टॉप राइट कॉर्नर में है ना स्लाइड शेयर
Top right
के
corner, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, can you still see the screen, or did it get changed?
We see the full screen. It's perfect.
Okay, so we'll do this quick recap. So what happened until now? We know that it actually started with a pastime of Lord Vara initially, and then we heard about the four Kumaras, their friction with Jai Vijay, and then the curse they gave to Jai Vijay. After that, we saw the story about how their mother Diti, she conceived them during evening, and how these two brothers, Hiranyakasha and Hiraṇyākṣa, were born, and how, they were literally plundering the earth. And then Hiranyakshi goes to the ocean and he challenges Varuna. But Lord Varuna says that, he's old, so it's better that he goes to Varadev and challenges him directly. And that's what he does. He challenges Varadev, but Varadev, upon hearing that, he feels the pain, which very beautifully depicts that Krishna is personal and he can feel the pain when he was listening to his unpleasant words. But Lord Vara, he made sure that first he puts Bhumi on the surface of the ocean and gave her the energy so that she can float. And I was listening to something in which, like, different lectures in which it's described, like, if a husband is challenged by some random goons on the road and he's with his wife, so he'll make sure that his wife sits in the car or goes back home, and then he comes and deals with them. So that's what Lord Bara did. So after placing Bhumi Devi safely, he comes back, and then to begin the fight or to respond to him. And our previous chapter, which was beautifully, the last two chapters actually, which were beautifully discussed by Aishwarya Mataji, they ended with Lord Brahma's prayers, where he's praying Lord Bara to, fight off this miscreant and kill him. So now we'll continue the rest of the chapter. As we saw, the chapter is like small enough in terms of it is very nicely like broken down into different parts, and so we'll just quickly see the content flow. We may or may not, we won't discuss everything from it. We'll discuss some parts from it, and we'll also bring in our own some other things that I've heard around and things that are related to this loosely. And so yeah, so first part as we see is the fight, and then in the fight, the majority of chapter consists of the fight, and even the fight is further divided into different things that are happening. Actually, the very first verse is, it did end with Lord Brahma's prayers in the last chapter, but this one is Varadev's reaction. So Varadev, he's very happy. I mean, he's happy with Lord Brahma, and then he starts off the fight. And in that, the purport, it also describes a little bit about the difference between a devotee's prayer and a demon's prayer, and then there's some contrast shown. So yeah, we won't go into much detail in that, but just wanted to put that forward. But yeah, coming back to the fight. So there are like 5 major things that happened in the fight. First is that Hiraṇyākṣa, actually he overthrew the Lord's mace. As we read that his mace is like spinning, and it slipped off the Lord's hands. And then, like, what happens, and a few more things happens, and in this whole episode of slipping, it's very nicely described that even though he's a demon, but even in though, like, in those days, even demons were like man of word or whatever. So they always, most of the time, they followed the rules of the fight. So he made sure that since the Lord did not have any weapon at that time, so he waited for the Lord to get a weapon. And then the second part is where, like the fight continues, and then the Lord actually kicked his mace, Hiraṇyākṣa's mace, and then it falls on the ground. And after that, it is followed by a series of Hiraṇyākṣa's various attacks, and of course, failure of his attacks. And then we have a very ghastly description of the illusion he tried to create, Hiraṇyākṣa, and he also like hid somewhere, and then he was having all these nasty things around, like the rain pouring blood and whatnot. And then all of this happened. But then finally, again, the demigods prayed, and Lord was done with the whole fighting and enjoyment. So he just finished him off with a simple slap. And we'll go into detail. But yeah, so these are like how the fight is like divided. And then we have, maybe just one or two verses for each of the other topics. First is like how Lord Brahma and others, they praised Hiraṇyākṣa. As we know, like whenever anyone is killed by Krishna, it is always glorious. So they were glorifying his death, and his body was luminous at that time. After that, there are like one or two verses on the glories of the Lord's activities, and then Falashruti. So yeah, let's go right into it. So we'll discuss the first part, and we see that Hiranyaksha overthrew the Lord's mace. And it's like, you see a movie, and Lord is our hero, right? I mean, hero should never lose. I mean, why should he even get a single punch? And like we all saw Narasimha movie, honestly, I was like, when I was seeing Varahadev fight, he getting like few blows from Hiranyaksha and even Lord Narasimha. Like, although in both the cases, more or less, the Lord did not get hit as such. But still, I mean, why to even take that subordinate position even once or twice? So let's have like some questions here. So can you all think of more examples where the Lord, I mean, he was in the enemy was better off at least in one or two steps, because I'm not phrasing it well, but I just mean when the enemy got better of the Lord just for maybe half a second. Like one example I can say, okay, let's see in the chats. Vritrasura, yes. And anyone else, more examples, like even like non-fighting examples we can have, let's say Ravana, like Sita Mata, even she's Lord's energy, but she also got like, confused, or yeah, he was able to deceive her. So can you think of more examples like that? Or
Hare
even the
Krishna.
fighting? Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
When the Lord leaves, before he goes to Dwaraka, he runs away from Kala Yavana or Yavan. He doesn't fight with. He doesn't get subdued, but he decides not to fight and he runs away.
Yes, Prabhu, yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Yeah, yes, that's one instance where he just runs away. If I'm not mistaken, and then like somehow that demon, he thinks that he's in the cave, and he goes in the cave and wakes someone up. I think Muchukunda, he wakes Muchukunda up or someone, and then he got destroyed. Yes, Prabhu. And then you also have, thank you, Prabhu, thank you. And also he has the whole Ranchor story where he runs away. And any more examples, anyone?
Bhishma hitting arrows to Krishna. I just looked it up. It said directly he did not hit arrows to Krishna, but I've heard in some classes where it is said that Bhishma's arrows did hit Krishna, and but because Bhishma was a pure devotee, those arrows were like flowers being showered on Krishna. Maharaj was speaking about the Pushabhishek that time. That was the context. And he was mentioning this example of Bhishma Dev when he was hitting arrows to Krishna. They were like actually
Yes, Prabhu.
flower petals. So,
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for reminding that. And yeah, that was a beautiful description by Maharaj when he was saying that because Bhishma's highest pleasure, I mean, he's a warrior. So for him, like war is like the highest form of pleasure or enjoyment. So God, he reciprocated with that. So that's beautiful, Prabhu. Thank you. And yeah, so more examples. Even if you see Lakshmana, getting like fainting or getting injured in that fight. I mean, come on, he's Shesha, he's Balaram. He cannot just get injured by that Indrajita easily. But yeah, so those are more examples. And also recently I was hearing in Kartik Yatra where Maharaj said that so when Krishna comes back to Nandgam after like 100 years and Yashodhamaya sees those wounds on his body. So I was like, how can Krishna get wounds? Like, how can that enemy get hold of Krishna to actually do that? And then, yeah, Kalia also initially, he was kind of winning. So, yeah, these are all these beautiful examples. And then, but the question comes like, the hero shouldn't even get a single punch. I mean, we do get the idea of Virya Rasa, but why can't God just, yeah, like still fight, but always keep punching the opponent and win? So yeah, any answers? Maybe we'll just take one or two. Okay, so with Kalya, Krishna was apparently unconscious for some time. Thank you for sharing that, Prabhu. Okay, so yeah, we have more answers. Yes, there won't be any spice in the fight. Absolutely, absolutely, Prabhu. So yeah, so that's the thing. So let's see some more. Yeah, we already discussed all these examples. Even Bali, like kind of Lord Ram was confused, but he definitely knows which is Bali and which is Sugriv. So why that? Why does Krishna do that? Because like Jagannath Gopal Prabhu rightly said that there wouldn't be any spice. Like if you're fighting someone, like if there's India versus Pakistan or any two countries, and you know that we're just gonna win, then there's no fun until unless you have that, 1 over and 6 balls and that sort of situation. So there's no fun. So yeah, and ultimately everything is meant for Krishna's pleasure. Um, Even if there's competition, he wants like a good, neck to neck competition. And at the same time, he also has other purposes. Um, Yes, beautiful. So, Nitya Mataji is saying that Lord likes to tease the opponents, and even the cat lets the mouse think that it can escape for some time. Yeah, so that's fun in this. That okay, yeah, you enjoy your little victory dance, and then I'll show you. So yes, that's true. And sometimes there are also other purposes. Like so I was listening to Amoglila Prabhu's class, and he was saying that because Lakshmana did not sleep in those 14 years, so Lord just wanted him to get some rest. Similarly, like for Bhishma, Lord wanted to give him that opportunity to fight with him, to do that Pushpa Abhishek with arrows. And if we think more about it, ultimately even the demons can win, or at least get like some good punches because of Lord's energy. I mean, even their ability to fight is because of the Lord. How like Prahlad Maharaj tells Hiranyakashipu that like I get my faith energy from the same person who gives you energy, and the same person who gives your Lord, or like at least for Hiranyakashipu, he was really, really, at least he was trying to please Lord Brahma for everything. So he said even your Lord Brahma gets energy from him. So yeah, and ultimately it's all God's energy. So whichever side gets the punch, it doesn't matter. I mean, it matters at the end, but it doesn't mean that that's the other side is like some better off. It's just they're just doing it because of Krishna's power and will. And then more examples about how we were talking about spies. Another example I was listening from Amoglila Prabhu, he was like that if you're playing hide and seek and if you know that where the other person has hidden, if I only ask that, okay, person A, you hide behind a drawer, other one hide under a table, whatnot, and then if I'm trying to find them, then there's no fun. And also there's this story that Krishna, he literally knows everything. Like even in the Mahabharata, there was this Ulipi king who said that they'll be in charge of the cooking, like he and his team maybe, and but they didn't know like how much to cook every day, like every evening, because soldiers might die, so they didn't want the food to go waste. So what they used to do is like they used to take. So Prabhu, like Amugla Prabhu was saying that different things are mentioned in different resources. Some say peanuts, some say jamun, but let's say jamun, and then they'd given jamun to the Lord every day just to offer him lots of jamuns, and however many he used to like eat up those many uh, warriors were killed the next day. So that helped them do the calculation. But yeah, this story just meant that Krishna, even though he's fighting the war, or even if he's part of the war, he already knows what's going to happen. But it's just ultimately for his pleasure and the reciprocation with devotees and even like demons, because he wants to reciprocate with all the living entities. And yeah, and one thing to prove that, not to prove that, but just to say that this is just Krishna's way of having fun, is the fact that the final blow, like he killed Hiraṇyākṣa just with a slap, and which was a very, I mean, it was a very indifferent slap. It was not even like with a lot of force or something. So yeah, that just shows that God is capable of doing anything, but he just wanted to have some fun. Yeah. And on the same lines, I mean, so I mean, a majority of the discussion is based on like this part, that because I was personally very curious about it when I saw the movie also, that okay, why is he getting all these punches or whatever. But yeah, so I was listening to this class by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. He was so he extended this to the fact that okay, why do good things happen to bad people? And in certain philosophies, like especially the Christian philosophy, we know they have the concept of good and evil, devil and God, which is great. But the thing is that in that you are literally keeping God and devil at the same level. And I've heard people saying that, oh, if you believe in God, you should believe in ghosts. But are you serious? Like, how can you compare God to demon or ghost or whatever? They are not at the same platform. So, but yeah, in many of the philosophies, they think that, okay, there are two sides which are always fighting against each other. And right now, the evil is in control. So they say one of them is always in control. And when Eve ate the apple, that time evil took control. But what our Shastras say, according to our Krishna conscious philosophy, it is the fact. And so the fact is that Krishna is beyond good and evil, as we always keep hearing that he's even beyond all the three modes of material nature. So he's completely beyond good and evil, and even his abode is although we say it's higher and higher, but when we think about it, it's just beyond. It's not just geographically high; it's transcendentally high. Because if you think of the earth, like if you're just thinking relatively, then it's ultimately just like a globe. So the relative positions of high and low can change, but it is just beyond the material conception, the material geography, which might be sometimes difficult to understand. But like long story short, we shouldn't think that Krishna and evil and God and evil are like two parts of the same coin. No, he's beyond this, and whatever this good or evil, this all happens. They say that evil is in control. No, Krishna is the ultimate controller, and he's the cause of all causes. But one thing that Prabhu said, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu said that he's the cause of all causes, but not the cause of all effects. So I didn't understand that part. But yeah, if anyone can elaborate on this or something, it'll be nice. But yeah, I mean, I did not understand the second part of he's not the cause of all effects. Maybe that just means that how we react to a certain situation whenever something is caused to us. But yeah. So, and then the last thing I want to discuss in this book was.
Sorry, just that one thing. He is the cause of all causes, but not the cause of all effects. So he explains with one example also. Like, let's say, like we often see cause and effect, right? We just see there is a cause, and that cause gave rise to an effect, right? But CCP steps back a little, right? He steps back a little, and then he analyzes this. Now, if let's say there is a box, within that box there is cause and there is the effect, right? But if you step out of that box, that cause itself also had a cause, right? Because the cause, like for example, okay, I'll not go too much into technical terms, like anger, for example, okay? Now, anger is an emotion, right? Now, now somebody gets angry and they say something harsh to their loved ones, and that has an effect, right? The relationship becomes sour or whatever. right? So the cause is the anger. The cause is that out of anger, the person said something to their loved one, and the effect is that the relationship got sour. But then the anger itself has a cause, right? The anger itself has a cause. And ultimately, if we go tracing like that, then every cause has the Lord is the cause of all causes. Every cause has a cause, right? But then the way that anger needs to be utilized, that choice is up to the person. The anger is ultimately, anger, all emotions are in Krishna. Anger is ultimately in Krishna. So it is coming through him, from him, right? But of course, Krishna's anger is good, but its perverted reflection is coming into this world. Now, in that sense, Krishna is the cause of that anger, right? Yet, how the jiva utilizes that anger is up to him. So that is what we mean by Krishna is not the cause of all effects, right? So if you step back, it's cause and effect, it's in one box. You step back, then that cause also has a cause, right? So like that. I don't know if I made sense or confused you more, but basically Krishna is
Yeah.
the cause of all causes, but he's not the cause of all effects in the sense that whatever is coming from him, we have the choice of how to utilize it. In that sense, he's not the
Mm.
cause of all effects. So
Makes sense. Beautiful, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, okay, yes, I think I get it. In the sense that, yeah, so because we have the whole free will thing, and so he's not the cause of all effects. Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
Prabhu.
Free will is the main thing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'll reflect more on it. This was very interesting. Thank you. So, yeah, just one last part of this topic, I mean, this specific session. Yeah. So, Madhuri is saying, in other words, we have the choice to do bad things. Yes, exactly. Yeah, makes sense. Like the whatever we do with whatever causes are present to us by Krishna, so that comes to our choice. Okay. Yes, thank you, Mataji. Yeah, and one last thing I really liked from CCP is that specific class. He was, I think, doing a Dashavatar series in Chopati Temple. So that was that he gives this definition of Maya, and I forgot which. He also quoted one of the SB words, but I couldn't catch it because he was only doing the Sanskrit part. But so yeah, how we know that everything, anyone's energy or that attractive quality in someone, everything comes from Krishna. Like how Prabhupada says that if you're alcoholic, you should say that Krishna is like how we have Krishna as a taste of water. He said somewhere he mentioned that if you assume or if you believe that Krishna is a taste of alcohol, that is like one step to start becoming Krishna conscious. I mean, that's only for the alcoholics, but yeah. So similarly, so Prabhu said that so everything comes from Krishna, like all the attraction, energy, opulence. And if you're attracted to someone, let's say a boy is attracted to a girl, but if they cannot see that that attraction that is in her, that qualities, it is actually given by Krishna, or it is just a smallest part of Krishna's attraction energy, then that is Maya. Like when we don't see that connection, that everything, like all the qualities are put in us by Krishna and it's his energy. So when we are in that forgetfulness, then that's Maya. Yeah, so okay. And then we are still in the fight part. They're still fighting. And so there's this and kind of continuation of the last part that we know in this whole segment there comes a time where he punches the Lord on his Srivatsa mark on his chest. But for Krishna, I mean for Lord Varaha, it did not matter to him at all. Like it was for him, it's just his servitor, his dear Jai Vijay. And actually, I should have also done research on who is Jai and who's Vijay amongst that. That's like, yeah, I should have read that. But yes, so it is his doorkeeper and his devotee. So for him, it was just like, like an elephant on whom you just kind of maybe put some wreath of flowers. And he was actually enjoying it. Like, a father is playing with his child. If Prithu is like, punching JGP or something, he'll be happy. They'll just enjoying that fight. So that's how the Lord was feeling throughout this whole situation, and especially where he gets that punch from Hiraṇyākṣa. And then the fight continues as we see, and then again, even Hiraṇyākṣa's this thing falls down, and he also feels a bit humiliated. And then he brings out this trident, and then what the Lord did from his Sudarshana, he cuts it off. And then it's also said that similar to how Indra cut off Garuda's wings. And so in the purport, it's mentioned, that story is mentioned. So I just wanted to put that forward quickly, because just to add some context to that line. So the context is that when Garuda, he took away the nectar pot just to liberate his mother from his stepmother, or from the clutches of his stepmother. That time Indra and Garuda had a fight. And then Indra's, his Vajra, his thunderbolt, Indra started using that. And although Garuda is a devotee, he's Garuda, he cannot get affected by these weapons, but he wanted to respect Indra's weapon, and he did not want the world to see that, oh, Indra's infallible weapon, like it did not work on him. So that's why he chose to sacrifice his wings. So that was that little story, not very much related to the rest of the context, but yeah, I wanted to put that forward. It's written in Prabhupada's purport. And then the fight continues, and then we see that our Hiraṇyākṣa, he tries to embrace the Lord. I mean, not out of love, but he wanted to crush him. Like we have that, like remember how after the Mahabharata, their father Dhritarashtra wanted to just crush Bhima. So he wanted to do something similar, but of course he couldn't do that. And what happened was, like when he tried to embrace him, he saw that Lord was actually outside the limits of his arm. So I really liked it in the way, because like we are in the month of Damodar and we are listening to the beautiful pastimes, that how Mother Yashoda, she was able to bind Krishna. And out of pure love, like imagine a simple cowherd girl, cowherd woman, she's able to tie the Lord. And this mighty Hiraṇyākṣa, who's literally, I mean, imagine his size, and if he could literally put the earth in the ocean, he's so powerful, but he couldn't get hold of Krishna, or he couldn't limit him. So I really liked this beautiful contrast between Mother Yashoda and these different demons. So few things from the purport. So this is just so this is like 3.1924. So the thing is, like, why he couldn't catch, because he's just like a simple demon, and with his limited arms he cannot capture the absolute. And what people try to do, like any demoniac person, he'll try to measure the length and breadth of the Supreme Lord, and they'll try to somehow win over the Lord, which is not possible. But when Lord desires, like we see it's written in the last 3 lines, not able to highlight it, but yeah. So Srila Prabhupada says that, but when the Lord desires, he kind of not, I mean, limit won't be the right word, but because I'm not able to find a better word right now. So he will willingly limit himself to like a small deity, or whichever form the devotee wants or prays. Like he got bound by Mother Yashoda, but at the same time, he's so merciful that he manifests himself as the beautiful Murlidhar, as Laddu Gopals in many of our houses. And when Prabhupada wrote, like, in a small box and carry them with everywhere. So, we do sometimes carry our deities with us if we are traveling. So this is just his pure causeless mercy. And when he reciprocates with the devotee's love. So this is like a very nice contrast I found in the descriptions. And one more thing about the fight. So, like, we all read the description of fight, and it is like, even when reading this, you feel that, yeah, it's going on in front of you. And it's like full on, it's a very like actionful fight. It's not like a boring fight that, okay, Lord Vara came, he just, whatever, maybe punched him or used his Sudarshana in the first go and then killed him. No. It was full of action. And then I was I think listening to Amrendra Prabhu on like Lord Vara pastimes, and he said that in Srimad Bhagavatam, or of course in Krishna's all the pastimes in general, you have everything. You have action, you have nostalgia, you have romance, you have literally everything. The things that we try to find outside. So it's very similar to how, the idea of higher taste, that once we develop taste for Krishna Katha, like once we develop more and more taste, of course, we all, like all of you have so immense taste and love to hear Krishna Katha. But at the same time, when it keeps increasing more and more, and then at the same time, our that hunger to get that experience in the world around us, in the material world, it keeps reducing and reducing. And I really liked, I mean, how we know, we have heard about this, but this particular chapter was a great depiction of that. Srimad Bhagavatam has everything. It has action, it has story of, how the world was formed and whatnot. So this was very nice, like a factual description of what all we hear in the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. And one interesting thing is, even when we are reading this, so just understanding the intensity of the fight, or how grand it was. Because when we think of the size of Varadev also, if he's holding earth on his tusk, and it's said that earth looked like a spot on the moon. So imagine his size as compared to the earth. And even Hiraṇyākṣa was the same size. He was comparable to the Lord, so that there is, like we discussed, fun in fighting. So this was a very, very like exciting moment where everything was happening, and which is even beyond our perception. I mean, we can't even imagine something greater than Earth, and then these two fighting and whatnot. But yeah, so this is just a description of how beautiful the Lord and his pastimes are, and also like very exciting and adventurous at the same time. So just wanted to like throw light on that. And then we have a little description of how then this Hiranyaksha does all these random things and all these illusions he creates, where the sky showering blood, and then mountains are throwing weapons and all these things. And but then what happens, the Lord brings his Sudarshan Chakra, and when the Sudarshan Chakra comes, and all this magical jugglery is dispersed. So we have heard, of course, about Durvasa Muni and Maharaj Amrish, that when Durvasa Muni, the whole incident happened about the Maharaj Amrish breaking his fast and stuff. Then Sudarshana was after Durvasa Muni, and ultimately he had to kind of ask for forgiveness from Maharaj Amrish. So similarly, can you all think of more examples where, and especially from the modern world or wherever, where people have been, whether it's illusion or whether they're just like jugglery of words, or different people like who claim to be God, wherever these people tried to do their thing or try to win over people, but how it was disposed by bhakti. Can we like think of some examples, please? Okay. One example I can think of is when I forgot that person's name, but during Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur's times, there was this guy who was claiming to be God, and people used to like chant his name and whatnot. And yes, Bisal Singh, Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Yeah, yes, that one, the Bhagwan, the Ram Falgu Bhagwan guy. Yes, and Bisal Singh. Yes. Thank you, Nupuran. Like, yeah, so we have two stories with Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. One is that when the British requested him to kind of get rid of this god man, and then he was simply just reciting from his books, sitting close to that guy or near that area, and so those magical jugglery of the other person, it was disposed. And then there was the second person, if I remember the story correctly, how Lekha is mentioning, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that when Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he had given some judgment for someone, and then they tried to do some random like tricks on him, like black magic and whatnot, but nothing happened. I mean, things happened, but then it got dissipated because of Krishna Bhakti, and yes, Prabhupada making hippie happies. So yeah, there are all these examples. Even in today's world, we do see like temporarily random things winning over and whatnot, but ultimately when the right knowledge and Krishna Sankirtan is presented, or it is the glories of the Lord are sung, then automatically these things are dissipated. And even the fact that how we all came to Krishna consciousness is a depiction that they could. Oh wow! So Prabhu is saying they cut Bhishaki Shen's choti and he lost all his power and ultimately committed suicide.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was in prison, but he was doing all this black magic against Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and his family got sick, and it was very, very difficult actually. His wife actually told him that, why are you taking panga with this guy? Just let it be. Give a judgment in his favor. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very, staunch that he didn't want these imposters to survive, uh, survive in the world. So then he still was in prison. And then I don't know if he found out or the British found out that all the powers of these black magicians apparently is concentrated in their choti. So then they cut the choti, he lost all powers, and then he just killed himself. Yeah.
Oh wow.
But there is another story where, as you mentioned, he sat and read the entire Bhagavatam and liberated that ghost. Yeah, that also was there.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for reminding about those stories again. Thank you. Yeah, so I always found them like really interesting. So yeah, but ultimately, whether we, even if it's not like fancy illusion, like in all these cases, even if it's just something simple, like our choosing like all the things we have around us, the material illusion, like the general material illusion, which is always around us. So even the best remedy for that is Krishna Bhakti, if you think about it. And yeah, so now we are on the last few verses, and after this, I also wanted to discuss some other little stories I heard about Lord Vara, just to add some more sweetness to this. So yeah, I wanted to discuss text 31. Uh, so few things. So in text 31, so Maitreya continued that after this killing, the most formidable demon, Hiraṇyākṣa, the Supreme Lord Hari, the origin of boar species, returned to his own abode. And for that abode, they are saying where there is always an uninterrupted festival. And so I really like the purport. Like, so this chapter, how Jagannath Gopal Prabhu also told me earlier that there are less purports, but so that's why I wanted to talk about most of the purports that are there. So it said that Lord Vara, he is Adi Vara. I mean, he's Adi Shukra or Shukara, sorry, and which means that he is the origin of all boar species, and not just the boar species. He's the origin of all the species. So that part is again kind of highlighted here again. And then they're talking about the Lord's abode, where he's going back. And there, the word used is Akhanditotsavam. So Akhand means uninterrupted, and Utsav means pleasure. So it is a place where, I mean, there's always pleasure. So Vaikuntha Lokas or our Goloka is the place where there is never-ending pleasure and festivities. And like we know that the material world is Dukhalema Shashvatam, where the only pleasure we know is those little pauses where there is absence of pain or absence of problems and or miseries. But the Lord's abode is completely different. It's a place where there is always pleasure. And um, so in one more in the same lecture by Amoghila Prabhu, he described this further, saying that like for the residents of Goloka or Vaikuntha, it's not something like, okay, the Lord has gone, now he's gonna come back, and he's gone for a fight and whatnot. For them, it's like a very quick thing. They just feel, oh, Lord has just gone out for like 2 seconds, and then he comes back and he's like, oh, I just killed Hiraṇyākṣa and I came back. And then he was saying that, so that part, I mean, that was too deep, so we won't go into much detail. And I also didn't get a chance to do more research on that. But he said that, like, the spiritual Vrindavan, the Golok Vrindavan, and the Bhaumya Vrindavan are on the same spiritual space. So, whatever activities of Krishna are happening there, like if Mother Yashoda is in Golok and if Krishna is doing something here, so it's all in a way interconnected and it's in the same spiritual space. So that was just to kind of describe that how our Golok, I mean not our, hopefully our one day, but how Golok is so it's like beyond our perception, and it's a place where there's always just it's full of festivities and pleasure. Sorry, I lost my slide. And yeah. So yeah, and then one thing that I really liked, and because this thing I do end up getting into discussions with many people who have a very different definition of Avtara or incarnation. They feel that incarnation is something smaller, or like something that came out and then, oh, Krishna came, and like, of course he's Krishna, he is the original Adi Purusha, but many people think that first they say he's just an incarnation, he's an incarnation of Vishnu, and then they say that, oh, he died and whatnot. So there are so many things that we don't even feel like repeating. Like, I just repeated these one or two sentences, I just felt so unpleasant. But um so there's this whole misunderstanding about who an Avtara is, but it's beautiful how Srila Prabhupada has stated here that Avtara means just to come down. Like, it's something as simple as that, because his abode is there, like it's transcendently high. So he just comes down to be with us, or to, fulfill his different activities and missions. It is not that he's come down, so he's made of flesh and bone and whatever. So yeah, I mean, I liked how we have a Vedic reference for a definition of Avtara, to like talk to people in general when we get into debates. Yeah, and I wanted to read this message by Lekha. So coming back to the previous, the whole illusion one. Okay, so there was a black magician who attempted to kill Vedanta Deshikar, who was an ardent follower of Sripad Ramanacharya. And because of his jugglery, his stomach was getting filled with excessive stomach water. And then Desikar composed a Narasimha Stotra, and the pillar next to him burst out, wow, with water pouring out of it. Swami Desikar got better instantly. Then a lion manifested and chased the black magician until the magician sought forgiveness to Vedanta. Oh wow, this is beautiful. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Lekha. Yeah, and they're like such more and more beautiful pastimes, how Lord is always there to overcome all these different illusions and juggleries by different people. And yeah, so I think okay. And then another one, the next verse, it discusses about, so the main part is that where Maitreya says that it has been narrated by me as I heard it from my predecessor, spiritual master. So, of course, for us, it is so important to be in parampara, and that is repeated again here. And just few snippets from, I was listening to Radhashyam Prabhu on this same verse, and he was saying that, like, yeah, we do present without adulteration. And even the fact, so honestly, when I was preparing for this lecture, I was trying to find different videos by our different devotees so that I can find more content. And then I thought, okay, it's everyone is saying more or less the same thing, but which is great. I keep saying that to people and thinking that, in our academic world, it's a bad thing to do copy paste. But in our spiritual world, it is the best thing to do copy paste. I mean, if you are presenting it as it is, so that is authentic. And and then it was more things were talked about on, giving talks and preaching by Radhashyam Prabhu.
Are you there, Ma?
I think we lost Vrinda Mataji.
Yeah. She's there in the meeting. Okay. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, so sorry about that. I think, yeah, my Wi-Fi is, it just got dropped. But yeah, we'll just continue. So I'm on my phone, so I might not be able to share the PPT, but I'll just try to I'll speak everything. I'm so sorry about the whole technical glitch. But yeah, so we were just talking about the just the transfer of knowledge, and then one nice thing I wanted to share was about like the qualities of being a good student and a preacher. So how Srila Prabhupada, when he was, because he was preaching to a Western audience and he was teaching the concept of soul and body, so he made sure that because the Western audience might not connect so much with the chariot, so he was giving examples of a car. So but he was making sure that the actual essence is not lost. And one thing about good students is that they ask, they inquire submissively. And if we read BG's 4.4 verse, so in that, Arjuna is asking that, so he's confused, like, okay, if Krishna, like, so the sun god Vivaswan is much, much senior to you, then how do I understand that you gave him the instruction in the beginning? But instead of asking in a challenging way, he's saying that how am I to understand? Like instead of saying, okay, so how can you say that? So he has a very submissive attitude while asking that. So that's like one quality of a student. And so I'd like to ask one question here is that can a student become more successful than a teacher? And which is true, yes. Like if you have examples of like medical students, cricketers, I'm sure like these Sachin Tendulkar and Virat Kohli, they would have their coaches and whatnot. So they do become more successful than the teachers. So how do we understand that? Like, does it mean that the student is kind of, did the student supersede their teacher? Or what is the understanding behind this when we see a student being more successful than the teacher, at least apparently to the world?
Actually, do you have slides on?
I So, Prabhu, I think my slides, yeah, because I had to connect on my phone.
No worries, no worries. What's the question again?
Oh, yeah, sorry. So, the question is that when a student is more successful than a teacher, then what should be the attitude of the student? Like, should he believe that, oh, I'm smarter than my teacher?
Mm, You mean in spiritual circles?
Yeah.
One thing is in spiritual circles, the metric of success is very different. It's not about followers, it's not about external metrics, right? So, because the metric is internal, there is always that awe and reverence to Guru, and as Gaur Kumar Bro mentioned, attribute success to Guru Kripa. Like if you see from an external sense, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji he didn't really accept too many disciples. He wanted to be on his own. He didn't want to mingle with the public so much. But then you have his disciple who is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who opened Gaudiya Math, had 64 centers all around India, right? But then all that was possible because of the grace of Gaur Kishore Das Babaji. And that's what Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's consciousness was also. So yeah, that way, not seeing the externals, when it comes to the actual bhakti aspect of it, there is always that attribution of success to Guru. Yeah. Sorry, just.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah. You hit it at the right place. Absolutely. So that was even I was about to add on in the next slides. Yes, like you rightly said, that they always attribute their success to the teachers. They believe that they're empowered by their teachers. So just how parents are happy to see their kids achieve. Similarly, if you see like our Srila Prabhupada, he always believed that his Guru Maharaj and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they had empowered him to kind of do the wonders he did. And then even if you take the example of Lord Ram and Hanuman, people would say, "Oh, Hanuman could just he could just fly and go to Sri Lanka, and Lord Ram had to build a bridge. That's insane." But like Lord Hanuman, he could fly or he could go because he was given that power by Lord Ram. So yeah, so there was this like nice thing about just because we do see many examples where students do become more successful, and that is the ultimate success of their teachers, to see their students more successful. Yeah. And now last few topics, just last three things I wanted to cover. So in the next verse, before we start the next verse, so there's a question for all of you. So should the question is, we know that yes, we should be eager to hear about the Lord's pastime. So should we be eager to hear about his pastimes from every source we can get? Like wherever possible, we should just go and listen to the Lord's pastime. Of course, it's it's his pastime, so it's always full of nectar. So is that true or false? Okay, I think the question wasn't clear.
I mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what I was going to say. Also, what Nitya Mataji mentioned, source matters. Needs to be in genuine Guru Parampara. Otherwise, that example is given now that when you hear glorification of Krishna, Kirtan, whatever, from a non-devotee's mouth, it's like the milk that is being tasted by snake that will just pollute us. But then, yeah, when we hear it from Paramahamsa, Vaishnavas, and in the Guru Parampara, that has the actual effect of the transformation of the heart.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, and yes, Madhuri, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, so that's what even in the purports it's written that so whenever we hear, we have to hear from authoritative sources, and authoritative, to be an authority, it's just very simple that we have to just give that information, take it first from our spiritual master and then give it without adulteration. And how Mataji and Prabhu said that Srila Sanatan Goswami, he also mentioned that taking it from a non-devotee is like, so yes, Krishna Katha is nectar, it is milk, but it can get poisoned just the same way a serpent can poison the milk. And also, not just that it won't give you transcendental pleasure, but it can also be dangerous. And because when we start hearing from impersonalists or Mayavadis, we won't ever be able to understand a personal feature of the Lord and his transcendental pastimes. So it's very important to hear from authoritative sources. And that is like the last few purports, although it's just like one little phrase in the entire verse that I heard it from my spiritual master, and hearing from authoritative sources. If you do that, then this and this is the Falashruti. But even these little lines are so important because where do we hear from is more and more is most important. So yeah, so this was mostly about what I wanted to cover from the chapter, but at the same time, I wanted to just throw a little light on glories of Varadev, little things that I came across while preparing for this chapter. So one thing I wanted to cover was, as many of you might know, and it might have been discussed in the previous lectures also, but about two appearances of Lord Vara. So one appearance was that of Shweta Vara or Varadev, where his body was white in color, and that happened during the dissolution, like the partial dissolution of one of the kalpas. And that time, so what was happening, like Swambhuva Manu, he wanted to, like during, I think in chapter 13, this was discussed, but then at that time, so Manu, he wanted to start the whole creation and everything, but the earth was submerged in water, not because Hiranyaksha actually did that, but yes, because it was during that pralaya time, and at the same time, due to these enormous sins on the earth, so the earth was submerged underwater at that time. And just while like Manu and Lord Brahma were thinking, okay, how to bring back the earth so that the creation can start, that same time Lord Varak came out of his nose, like Lord Brahma's nose, and he went down and lifted the earth and brought her back. So that's the Shweta Vara who comes into the during the period of Swambhuva Manu, and then the Rakta Vara, which is the Varadev we just discussed about, the one who fights Hiraṇyākṣa and the one who comes to rescue Bhumi Devi from Hiraṇyākṣa was called Raktavara because he's red or pinkish in color. And he came during the Chakshusha period. Probably the Chakshusha is the name of Manu. But yeah, so they are the two appearances. And I also heard there might be more, but these are the two which are mentioned in SP. Okay, and now one more question for you all. Why only a boar? Like, why a pig? Why did Krishna choose this form only? And there are two reasons. So, if anyone could, if you have any answers, then he could have rescued the earth in any form, but why did he choose to be a pig?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Um, yeah, no idea. Maybe Hiranyaksha had some kind of boon.
That's nice, Prabhu. Yeah, I mean, maybe he had. That's something we can try to search, but yeah, they are like two specific different reasons. Also, I'm not able to see the chat somehow, but if anyone has said anything in the
Yeah,
chat.
I'll read out, Ma.
Okay.
So, Nita Mataji, perhaps I must stop watching Yashomati Maiya ke.
Oh,
Maybe this is a different.
this is to the previous one. We were discussing something about the sources.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. Lekha Mataji said, I think pig is always digging the earth, might be symbolic. Also, Krishna's way of showing he can take any form. Okay.
I have one that was mentioned, yeah, Nityakeshwari Mataji just mentioned that. It was mentioned in Mahavatar as well when Lord Brahma is saying that boar is considered as lowest species and it is resented and all that. And that is Lord's way of showing that he can take any form and even something that is considered as lowest by other living organism. Lord, by taking that form, he showed कि वो भी जीव like I don't know the way to put it.
Yeah, that's such an sweet reasoning. Thank you so much, Nupur. Yeah, I mean all the reasons are really nice and they make so much sense. Thank you for like putting them out and like opening my windows more and more. But something I think I was listening to, yeah, I think something that Amrendra Prabhu mentioned from his research and references was the two reasons. That first, so he had this whole diagram where they had shown that where is this Garbhodaksh Sagar, and so she like the Bhumi went all the way down in like Patal Lok, like when she was like drowned. So, like, and it was like it can be a dirty place. And so pigs are usually in dirty places. So that's why Krishna took that form, because he had to be in that dirty place and looking for earth. So, yes, it's very similar to how you said that he had to dig in and find the earth. And he was like also smelling and finding the earth. Oh, where is she? Where is she? So, to kind of help with that. And also, he was a wild boar. He was not like the regular boars like not regular pigs. He was like a wild boar specifically. So, he had these tusks on which he could lift earth. So, those were the two reasons that I heard of. Um, and yeah, and I found him like really interesting because I used to always think that okay, he can just be himself and do these things, but yeah, just to make more sense of the pastime, he takes these different forms. And then just few more things I want to discuss on the glories of Varadev, or just little stories related to him. One is of Bhaumasur. So we all know that so Bhaumasur is son of Bhumi Devi and Lord Vara, and it happened so when he lifted her, he impregnated her, and that's how Bhaumasur was born. And although he's Krishna's child, but because of bad association, he became the Asur. And then we have the whole story of the kidnapping of the queens, and then Satyabhama giving Lord permission to kill him and everything. But yeah, we won't go in detail. But yeah, little snippets that That's how Bhaumasur was born. And there is a place called Varashetra in India, I think south of India. Again, I was listening to one of the Prabhus and they mentioned. And so that is the place when Krishna, like when Varadev was lifting the earth, so the place where he touched the earth, that place is called Varadev. And now, like from Prabhupada's talks and description about the beauty of Varadev and the fact that, so Prabhupada really emphasizes on the fact that it is not that Krishna is a boar. He took the form of a boar. So it's, it's very subtle, but it's very important to understand he's not a boar. He just took that form. And he's not someone who's under the influence of karma that he has to suffer and whatever. He's full of pleasure. He's Rama. He's full of pleasure. So he just took the form of a boar in the same way a prime minister. You might go to meet the prime minister, but you see that he's become a horse for his kid. So it's just something as simple as that. And of course, for us as practicing devotees, we feel, yeah, that's obvious. But then Prabhupada had to say that still to make others understand and to safeguard the pastimes of Lord Vara against different speculations of people. So yeah, and few more things about Varadev that we say, you might not even want to touch a pig, but he was so beautiful. So when he came out of the water and then he shook his body to get rid of the water. So if a pig shakes his body, people will get away from him. They don't want to be around him. He might like different dirty water might come out of him, but from Lord Vara, like Charnamrita was coming out, and all the devtas were they wanted to get that sprinkle of water when he was like shaking his body. And there's also mentioned by Gauranga Prabhu also mentioned that somewhere it's yes in our Dashavatar Stotram we have that he looks like Bhumi looks like spots on the moon, but it's also mentioned that on his tusk Bhumi Devi was looking like a nose ring. So this is just some beautiful things. And then last part, just to continue more on these little pastimes and glories of Lord Vara, from His Holiness Radhan Maharaj's talks on Lord Vara's pastime. One is that so Maharaj is like that he's not the boar that you just find in regular forest. So he shares this story that boars are like so abominable that once someone saw him, there was this person who was in the forest. He saw the boar and he started saying harama, harama, which is like the Islamic word for, and they have the word haram, which is like forbidden or unpleasant or something. But then it's similar to Ajamil, it was sounding like hey Ram, and then that person got liberation because he was saying that out of no ulterior motive. But then Maharaj continues and he says that like this beautiful boar, he is, I mean, his entire body is fragrant. Even the devtas were enchanted by his beauty that they forgot about the beautiful wives, and even the beautiful wives they forgot about the devtas. That's how beautiful this boar avatar was. And then Maharaj shares this pastime of Mahaprabhu where he kind of manifested his boar avatar and he went directly to Murari Gupta's house, and there was a pot of water that was on his altar to serve the deities. And then he takes that pot of water and thinks of it as Mother Earth, and then he takes that Varavatar form. And at that time, it was even before his Mahavatar Leela, I guess. So that time, Murari Gupta was even the part that Mahaprabhu's Krishna wasn't declared, or he did not show it to people yet. I mean, he was always concealed. But so it was a very sweet pastime between both of them. And then at the same time, Mahaprabhu also warns that, I have this beautiful body, and these impersonalists they say that my body is illusion. So that time he really condemned the whole philosophy, the Mayavad philosophy. But yeah, just the summary was from that part was that yes, he also took the Vara form once in his Leela. And ultimately, just to show love to his devotees, he does all these amazing things. And Kauranga Prabhu also mentions that so Lord Vara is also Vedas personified because so Krishna's exhalation are the Vedas, and then that is inhaled by Lord Brahma. But then Lord Vara is exhaled by Lord Brahma. So ultimately, he is Veda personified. And yeah, so and then let me see if I wanted to share something else behind the yeah. And then one last thing. that in this chapter we also saw that how the demigods were like so scared. They were like, okay, 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 dear Lord, please don't play more with him, just kill him, it's fine. And whenever something unpleasant was happening, they were like, okay, this is the end of the world and all of that. So in one of the talks I was listening, so I mean, of course, all the demigods are also devotees, but at the same time, they still had some tinge of doubt. They were scared that, okay, what if the god loses? So they had that little tinge of doubt. Oh, what if the god loses? And so it's mentioned by Gauranga Prabhu that when even the whole Narsimha pastime was happening, that time also the demigods were very afraid to even clap for Narsimha while Hiranyakasha was alive. They were like, okay, what happens if somehow this doesn't work out? So yeah, I mean, just a little thing about how even when we think of our lives, although we know Krishna is the ultimate protector, he is going to take care of everything, still we have not just tinge of doubt. I have immense, I'm always worried, or I might get worried and whatnot. So it's a good reminder for us, like while reading, if I feel that, oh, why do the demigods have to worry? I mean, he's Krishna, he's going to win anyways. But I feel that the same things we need to apply in our lives. That okay, I mean, Krishna is my anchor, so he's going to do the right thing anyway. So why am I worried? Um, so I just felt that this was a nice learning to take from this particular episode, and yeah, so that was mostly it from today's chapter. I'm so sorry; it was like really all over the place, and then the technical glitch. I tried to use my other laptop today, so and also the Wi-Fi thing. But yeah, but before we end, I wanted to quickly sing because Jagannath Gopal Prabhu started with the Dashavatar Stotram, so I also wanted to end with it as we complete the beautiful pastimes of Lord Vara. And I'm also so grateful that I to all the devotees, that because of all of you I could delve into these pastimes, and they are just full of sweetness. I first time in my life, like, I knew about Lord Varadev and I was like, okay, fine, nice, he was there, he did some nice things, but I could feel like more love and more appreciation towards his pastime and his beautiful body for the first time. So I'm very grateful to all of you for the opportunity. So I'll just conclude with our Dashavatar Stotram, like to glorify Lord Bara. Vasati Dashana Sikhare Dharani Tavalagna Shashini Kalanka Kalevani Magna केशवधीता शूकररूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे. O Keshav, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of a boar, all glories to you. The earth, which had become immersed in the Garbhodakshay ocean at the bottom of the universe, sits fixed upon the tip of your tusk like a spot upon the moon. Shri Shivaradev ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone.
Hare Krishna, Ma, thank you so much. This was amazing. Um, just one comment I wanted to read from Soham Prabhu, which he put in relation to the authentic sources of hearing. We should try to listen from authentic sources. There are so many books on Mahabharata written like fiction where they look at Krishna like an intelligent human being, politician, etc., but don't recognize him as God. So is what he wrote. And this is very important also. When I was new to Bhakti, I had won like a 250 rupee coupon of Crosswords. I don't know if you know, Crosswords is a very famous bookstore in India. And then I went to this Crosswords in Pune and I bought this book by Devdutt Patnaik. It was about
Yeah.
Krishna. And then as soon as I got that, I told Mukundanand Prabhu that I was not like a full-fledged person, like devotee that time. Even now I'm not, but I was not connected in a full-fledged way. So he told me that no need to hear, try to read what is in parampara and everything. So then thanks to him, I didn't get sucked into that mire of mythological fiction. what these people think. So, but anyway, that is one thing. But thank you so much. This was so comprehensive. I don't know how many lectures you heard, but this was very nice, very, very detailed. And although there were very few purports, you brilliantly, took out all the lessons and made them so accessible to us. And ultimately ending, sweetly with Mahaprabhu's pastime and the verse from Dashavtar Stotra. That was like the icing on the cake. So thank you very much, Brinda Gopi Mataji.
Oh, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for I mean, this was in my mind, it was going really bad, but thank you for taking, seeing the good in it. And yeah, one last thing I wanted to, because you mentioned the story about like the sources, I still, that reminded me that in the very first time I met Gaurakumar Prabhu and Yugal Kishore Prabhu, so Gaurakumar Prabhu told that don't find answers on the internet, like just randomly searching who's God, who's Krishna. And then he told us about Veda base and 2, 3 sites. So yeah, that like really stayed with me. Thank you, Prabhu, for reminding.
Brilliant. Yeah. We all have somebody who saved us from straying away.
Yeah,
Rather,
Prabhu.
who are still striving to, you know, uh, not let us stray. Anyway, yeah. Lekha Mataji wrote, loved the class Vrinda, relished the Varaha avatar pastime. Thank you for reminding again and again that Krishna takes care of everything and beautifully. This pastime truly drives home the point of how inconceivable he is.
Thank you.
Okay, dear
Okay, Prabhu,
devotees,
thank you so much.
thank you, Ma. Any other thoughts, comments?
I
Uh,
also like how Gopi Didi makes the class interactive with like sweet questions and sweet pastime. So yeah, I really liked it. And again, like the way you ended it, and it's like the way you even explained and narrated the pastime, I personally could visualize when you were talking. So yeah, I really, me too love the class and the preparations and how you are able to connect like the example Krishna and Prabhu gave of Ranchor, like why Krishna got the title as Ranchor and how you connected it to the topic you were sharing while you didn't even have that example. So I really liked how the knowledge database you have in your head and you are able to connect it to everything you're talking about. That was be ekdam very appreciable. Thank you so much, Gopi Didi.
Thank thank you, Nupur. Thank you so much for your sweet words. Thank you.
Vrinda knows the entire Krishna book by heart, is what Nitya Mataji is saying. Amazing.
Oh.
Amazing. Okay, your devotees, any other concluding thoughts, any announcements, Gaur Kumar Prabhu? Um, okay, if nothing, going once, going twice, and going thrice. Okay, so thank you, dear devotees. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय श्री वराहदेव की जय हरे कृष्णा